So, good morning to all of you. My name is Stephan Treuke. I'm from the Emschergenossenschaft, and first of all, I would really like to thank you for the invitation. It's a very nice event, and I would also like to express my that I'm really content about your hospitality here in Turkey. I'm really impressed about all this nice organization. And today I am going to present a slightly different approach that we have heard until now, the urban transformation from the water side. That means the idea here is to convey the broader picture about urban transformation departing from the river revitalization. Just to give you an idea where we are, actually we are in Germany in the western part and in the state of North Rhine-Westphalia. And in the Ruhr metropolis, that is actually Germany's highest densified region with also a large share of population, roughly 5 million people living there. And it was for many, many years Germany's locomotive for industrialization, so for industrial activities. And it is still quite visible today that we have many old industrial heritage sites that are right now being converted to more leisure sites or park activities. So that might be also the link to this symposium here. And we are a public water company and we are here for roughly 125 years. It's actually the biggest one in Germany, the biggest water board, and we do everything about the water cycle except for drinking water. So our main task actually is about wastewater. It's a wastewater company, but our portfolio has quite enlarged during the last couple of years. And here you just see a picture of our two main catchment areas. The blue one is, the blue shaded areas are all these areas that would be flooded, actually the polar areas, that we are also maintaining when it comes to pumping up the groundwater. That you have to understand is due to the destruction of the coal mine process that has digged quite far into the soil, and that we have still many depressions, and so we have to take care about the groundwater in general. And that's our portfolio. Like I said in the first place, we are a wastewater company. But with the challenges, we have also increased in activities. And like I said, the idea here is the more holistic picture about an efficient water management. So next to these items, such as wastewater management, comes flood protection. That's quite an issue in Germany. But also due to climate change, we have experienced many floodings during the last couple of years. You can easily imagine the damages also done to the built infrastructure, especially 2 years ago when we had a big catastrophe in the close-by region of the Ahr Valley. So it's quite important to have these prevention measures. But also we are into, let's say, creating benefits out of our river revitalization. That means bicycle path, new parks to be created, so that's the link also to, like I said, this conference, and more innovative ideas. For instance, how to generate energy out of the wastewater that we are doing at the solar thermic drying unit in Bottrop. So you see quite a holistic picture, and here we see what it's all about. We are talking about one big river, that's the River Emscher, and its tributaries. River Emscher is not that a big river, it's 60 kilometers roughly of length, but we also have like 380 kilometers of tributaries, quite a filigrane network into our cities. And that also enables us to develop a left and right margins and to be some kind of regional developer. But there was a picture before. So there was a meandering river back in the 19th century, but there was already an idea to cut through with a channel to make, let's say, domesticate the river for the industrial use, to be used as a central wastewater channel or a wastewater highway, if you want. So the precondition for our industrial activities also is actually the conversion of the Emscher from this meandering river to an open sewer channel, if you want, that was happening at the beginning of the 20th century. So also to guarantee that the industries can really increase, and especially we had a lot of issues with that back then, diseases coming out of periodic floodings of the River Emscher, and you can imagine rivers being flooded if it also contains wastewater, so that's quite bad also back then for the workers. So you had many diseases and some technical solution had to be found. So the idea was to cut through the whole area by creating this kind of V-shaped channel profile that we see here, that actually has carried all the wastewater from both households and also the industries. but quite bad for nature, as you can imagine. Nowadays, this wouldn't be an adequate solution, but back then, that was a technical solution. And here I just show you what it is, what it looked like before. I was always making that kind of joke. So what is the water that is running red into one of its tributaries? That's blood from the slaughterhouse that is going into one of the central rivers, its tributaries, and you can imagine not very nice for the population living left and right to that area. One specific topic is also that the River Emscher is running through lower class neighborhoods that we can still see here on the right side. This hasn't changed that much, but you can imagine these were also the cheapest areas to live at, but it was quite smelly and danger for the health and everything. And that's where our second conversion of the Emscher took birth, actually, from the idea that we have to transform the Ruhr metropolis by, first of all, preparing the land from the environment side for further investments. Our region actually is lacking investments if you compare it to other regions in Germany, because due to its very industrial past and relying only on one industry, made us quite vulnerable to the breakdown of the economic cycle of the mining industries. But in the 90s, there was a huge approach of the local government to transform the region, first of all, by finding a technical solution for that wastewater highway that we had. And here, what we have done, we were separating that system that back then carried both wastewater and rainwater to a twofold system, where right now the Emscher sewer channel is under the soil in a depth of roughly 30 meters that is carrying all the waste from the households in the industries, while we have right now on the grounds clear water bodies that can be used for further development left and right of its margins. So that is what is this picture about. And I just show you a short video clip because I think videos sometimes show it more adequately than just talking. What we have achieved during the last 30 years.
Wasser ist die treibende Kraft der Natur und Ursprung allen Lebens, solange man es lässt. Doch als die Industrie in die Höhe schießt und der Bergbau sich tief ins Land gräbt, steht der Emscher, das Abwasser, bald bis zum Hals. Immer wieder überschwemmt sie das Land und lässt Seuchen und Tod am Ufer zurück. Das ist die Stunde unserer Geburt. Um die Menschen zu schützen und den Wirtschaftsstandort zu ermöglichen, zwingen wir den Fluss in ein Korsett. Ihr Lauf wird begradigt, die einst Unzähmbare wird gezähmt. Doch sie bleibt ein dunkles Wesen. Nach über 100 Jahren im Dienste der Region und der Menschen, die hier leben, steht fest: Es braucht mehr, dem Fluss wieder neues Leben einzuhauchen. Es ist 1992, als die Genossenschaft mit dem erneuten Umbau der Emscher einen Pakt mit der Region schließt, mitten in der größten Industriemetropole Deutschlands eine ökologische Infrastruktur aufzubauen, die eine lebenswerte Gegenwart schafft und ihre Versprechen an die Zukunft einlöst. Heute steht die Emscher für eines der größten wasserwirtschaftlichen Projekte der Welt. Eine ingenieurtechnische Meisterleistung, erbracht unter widrigsten Umständen. Unsere Werkzeuge dafür? Mut, Hartnäckigkeit und die Liebe zu unserer Heimat. Angetrieben von der Kraft aller Beteiligten, bahnt sie sich nun als blaues Wunder ihren Weg durch grüne Landschaften. Ein weiter Weg bis hierher. Doch wir fangen gerade erst an. Erneut stehen Land und Region vor großen Herausforderungen. Gesellschaftlich, ökologisch, infrastrukturell. Auf der Suche nach einer klimafreundlichen Antwort auf die urbanen Fragen eines neuen Jahrhunderts wird klar: Wir müssen Städte und Regionen nicht nur neu denken, sondern auch neu bauen. Wir müssen Mobilität neu gestalten, Urbanität neu definieren und aus Ideen echte Innovationen machen. Denn dafür treten wir an und stehen ein. Für ein blau-grünes Leben in und am Fluss. Wir sind hier, um Großes zu bewegen und bis ins Kleinste zu wirken. Als Biologinnen, Wasserwirtschaftler und Impulsgeberinnen. als Entwickler, Kaufleute, Ingenieure und Macherinnen. Als Radfahrerinnen, Nachbarn und vor allem als Menschen. Denn für uns alle geht es hier um nichts weniger als unsere Zukunft. Und damit um alles.
Okay, that was the commercial break. I hope you liked it. That was just to give you an idea. So from gray to blue, blue and green, especially from the water side. Here just a couple of figures. So we had this 30 years project roughly with a budget of 5.5 billion euros. Not that much money, you would say nowadays, but back then this was quite some money. And just to convert this open sewer channel into right now this two-fold system that I've just mentioned. And it was once actually also Europe's biggest infrastructure project, but it's still, I think right now with a couple of other projects in Germany, it's not more that kind of first project, but it is a real big approach to a whole river conversion and revitalization worldwide also. They're quite interesting for other cities as well, I think, that have also rivers running through the cities and that are still used as open sewer channels. But what comes next actually? So right now that we have done all this infrastructure, we are into developing the left and right margins of the Emscher and its tributaries, and that's a long way to go. We only have like one third actually of all the rivers recovered right now, such you have seen this nice meandering course right now, but in many other regions of these cities that we have, it's still undergoing. So the blue actually lines is already finished and the yellow and the green ones are still under construction or under license. And the point of departure back then was that actually the Emscher conversion was not that visible to all people because it's right now under the soil and people don't see the direct benefit. So that's why we in 2006 established a new master plan to really transform the region and its margins. And this master plan gave impulses for many, many citywide projects, whether there be new urban developments left and right to the Emscher, or whether there be park creations, but also new, like we have seen, mobile cycle path, for instance. So that is really thought to give some more attractiveness to the region, also to raise more the income for the cities when it comes to the settlement of companies and also of the middle and upper class people that have fled our region for many, many years. So here you see also the economic impact that was roughly threefold. Out of the 5.5 billion euros, we had 13 billion of direct return of investments from tax revenues and business getting to our region. So that is actually what it can look like on two sides. On the one side, we have left the impulses for new lakes or new rivers being created for city development, here for urban development, new mansions being created where there were a former steel factory, and our contribution was from the water side. So we had this cooperation with the city of Dortmund. On the right side, we have here one major park that I'm coordinating, that is Emscherland in Castrop-Rauxel. And like you've seen before, there was once an open sewer channel, and right now we have this nice meandering course that is actually almost how the river looked like 200 years ago, where we can also have this nice park that has been created. And this park at Emscherland is quite interesting because it's also hosting the International Garden Exposition in 2027. So one of the main venues that we have in our region, there are 5 of them, and one of them is going to be at Emscherland. And it's the idea not only to create a park, but also to integrate many, many ideas that you can find dispersed along our Emscher, such as more biodiversity, more educational activities alongside, more also open gyms and everything. So everything is getting into that park, into this 30 hectares, and we also are creating some larger bicycle path that's 18 kilometers of length, just a modest contribution to more cyclists using this kind of way to get to work, but also for leisure. And it is also some kind of blueprint for other regions that we are right now developing by not only creating a solution such as a park, but also by adding many, many topics. Could be housing, could be new types of work, new spaces for working, but also here it's being focused on park creation. And our latest actually challenge is, or our most recent approach is climate change in the city. We have been talking quite a lot about climate change already in the last session. What you would raise the question, why does a water body is engaged into climate change adaptation? You know, the city usually does this also quite well, quite adequately. The good thing is that we have many cities as our members. They are 63 members, be it cities, but also the old industrial players that are holding all the lands in that region. And within all this member structure, this cooperative idea of a public sector, we have built a huge regional governance that enables us to coordinate this kind of project regional-wide, not only at cities scale. So our contribution here is to get the cities not only in this kind of more blue and green shape, but also to adapt them to climate change, whether it be scarcity of water or whether it be floodings in the cities. And well, in Germany, you know, it's also getting hotter, it's getting warmer, and it's getting more extreme. We have more floodings and we have more heat waves than we had before. That's what these pictures have shown. So let's stick to the one part of floodings. Floodings create huge damages, like we have mentioned before 2 years ago. The catastrophe of the Ahr Valley due to the lack of retention basins and also obstacles in the river. The damages summed up 26 billion euros, so that's quite some money that you could use also for preventive measures that these things cannot happen. And our contribution in the first place is, next to the creation of many retention basins, such as on the left side, is actually river recovering. Because once you have this new meandering river course and you have the left and right margins, water can easily escape instead of having this V-shaped profile where flood waves can just easily be created and floodings usually happen. So that's why we are preventing our cities also from these higher damages. So that's flooding. The other issue is heat waves. The same thing in Germany. We have the same thing as in many other countries worldwide. And heat waves is especially bad because it raises the risks, and we had a high death toll during the last couple of years due to especially elderly people that got sick out of these heat waves, especially in the cities, because the soils are so sealed and there's not enough green infrastructure. And it also affected our rivers last year, that the river Rhine was partly running dry on some parts, so you really should think about an efficient water management also for scarcity. And climate change is, I think these measures, these are all quite known by you. You know, climate change adaptation measures means green facades, green roofs, in general decoupling from the sewer system so that water can infiltrate into the soil. It's the sponge city concept that's all behind. So that's why we are also involved in these activities, and we are doing it for all our members. That means 53 municipalities at regional scale at the whole Rome metropolis. Here you just see some examples. And this was also the idea of a state-led approach to urban transformation back in 2019, the so-called Ruhr-Konferenz, where the state decided that we really have to adapt our cities to climate change, and we won this kind of budget of 250 million euros. This is meant to be an initial funding to adapt the cities to climate change by exactly creating this kind of new climate change adaptation measures that I have just shown to you. And the hard targets are here: 10% more evaporation, or 10% increase in evaporation rate, and 25% of decoupling of the paved areas. So our area is quite paved, it's quite sealed, and you have to have more this kind of sponge city. That means water should infiltrate into the soil for cooling down the cities. And if we're doing it well, next couple of years, we have 6 years left broadly to spend all the money. That's quite important for the funding authority, the state of North Rhine-Westphalia. There's more money into it. We have to prove that you can do it at a regional scale, not only at a city scale. That's the important thing I want to retain here, especially when it comes to funding. European Union gives money to regions, not that much to cities. So that's quite important to take in mind. And project is called, well, there's an abbreviation. In nowadays it's called Klimawerk, but it's pretty nice to see because it involves a lot of governance. You know, money is out there, the content is out there, but you have to build a huge community between all the different members. The Emscher conversion back then, that was quite an easy task because everybody needed some new underground infrastructure to make the cities more attractive and everything. It's quite different with climate change. There are still people that say, okay, climate change is not happening in my city. Okay, this year it's cold again, no worries about anything. So how can you bring the people to really get motivated, especially the mayors, but also the big company leaders. That's why we have built the last 3 years this kind of architecture of a regional governance approach to coordinate this project, not only for climate change, but think about the possibilities. Think about more a regional approach to mobility, for instance, or for housing. Quite interesting point. So it's a lot of workshops, a lot of expert networks, a lot of conferences that we have done during the last 2 years. And right now you only see the first results, quite modest. You only spent 25 million euros, but you see how long it takes, because it's really a mind shift in the people, especially in the bureaucracies that we have in Germany, that are used to have this more sectorial approach to coordinating projects. And what we want to do is to bring together different departments, both of the cities but also of other member structures. Now usually you have the Department of Greening that is not working together with the Department of Infrastructure in the cities. So bring them all together in one big vision, green up our cities, make them more attractive, make them more climate change ready. So that's what we have done actually during the last couple of years. And here are just some examples how this could look like. But I think it's all quite new. It's not new for you. You have this kind of multifunctional approach, multifunctional or multi-layered spaces such as playgrounds at schools that can be used easily as retention basins, but also that are here for parks and for leisure activities. So also this kind of recreational use. And we're doing it in the whole network of our cities. And the contribution here is really to cool down the cities and to have an efficient way how to store water under the soil also when it gets to scarcity. That's another example, but I think you could just put many, many examples to it. These are practically not new. But the last picture is quite interesting. We had this master plan back in 2006, but to be honest, this master plan mostly remains in the bookshelves nowadays. No, it wasn't put into practice, only part of it. It gave some nice impulses, but still it wasn't thought together with the participation of the people. No, you can easily create a product, but does it align with the demands of the people? This wasn't questioned back then. So nowadays we are into a new development of a master plan together with the other cities and stakeholders, but only thought from the water. So the point of departure here is that you have a river running through and that you can develop all left and right margins, but together with the members. And these are only some kind of ideas what can be generated out of this new, let's say, regional governance approach, where you have really the conviction of all people to work together, but also the population behind it, because you have to ask which are the demands of the people. Is it just a park, or do they also want to combine it with work, new types of living? So that's we are engaged in right now, and you can just see that these kind of yellow shaded or orange shaded new items here are the future, if you want. Especially one I would like to emphasize is to generate energy out of the wastewater, out of the tubes. That was an idea that was not very new one. 30 years ago we had this idea, but it was too expensive. Back then we relied quite a lot on oil and cheap gas coming from Russia. Well, that has ended right now in our days, and this becomes more attractive because you can just easily use the heat out of the waste that's in the tubes for pumping it up, for filtering it, and just generate energy out of it. Especially interesting for large metropolises such as in the southern cone, for instance, that have huge amount of people creating or generating energy just out of the wastewater. So quite interesting to see innovative ideas. And my special interest here also to attend this conference is international cooperations. Because I think the Emscher conversion that we have just seen for our region, it has basically ended when it comes to the infrastructure. Right now we can only stress the benefits and everything. However, I think the transfer effect is quite interesting for many, many other cities that have the same issue. They have an open sewer channel running through the city, or a river that has to be developed left and right margins, and where you really need people to work together to develop these kind of areas of interest such as housing, mobility and everything. You cannot compare it. It's quite difficult to compare it because Germany had some very different settings, also different ways how to access money. And in Germany, it's public subsidized usually. Other countries will be more private. But the principles of this kind of, let's say, holistic picture of water management, also when it comes to the responsibilities for the people, whether it be job creation or social integration, that is the thing that we really like to transfer. And that's why it might be becoming quite interesting to follow up with the symposium of urban parks in general. So that was my contribution. Let's say, again, it is also park creation that we have done during the last couple of years, but our idea is that we first have to build the infrastructure for cities here from the water side, from the wastewater side, in order then really to make the cities more attractive by park creation, but also by this new climate change adaptation program that I have just introduced. So, thank you for your attention.